The haunted school ghost Japanese ogre face screaming in fear. Episode 7, the final episode. I didn't want to end the story here, but due to a lack of time, I have to conclude it. I sincerely apologize for this. Under the dim light of the bulb, I saw something in the schoolyard that gave me another shock. There was a tall and eerie shadow. It looked like someone standing on the school roof. Gathering courage, I stepped out of the corridor to take a closer look. Indeed, someone was there. I mustered the courage to ask, "Who are you?" But received no response. I asked again, still no reply. Just as I was about to ask for the third time, the figure moved and disappeared from my sight. Summoning my courage, I climbed up to the roof, but no one was there. I searched every corner, yet found nothing. Just then, my friend called me from below, asking what I was doing up there. I hurriedly descended the stairs, but as I was stepping down, I felt like someone was following me. When I turned around, there was no one. I continued descending, but again, I sensed someone behind me. However, whenever I looked back, I saw nothing. Meanwhile, my friend kept urging me to come down. When I finally reached him, he asked, "What were you doing up there?" I told him about the shadowy figure I had seen. He laughed and said, "My dear friend, either you haven't had enough sleep or you're feeling unwell." I insisted that I was fine, but he held my wrist, checked my pulse and said, "You have a fever." I still denied feeling unwell. Though I did have a fever, I wasn't aware of it at the time. My friend made me sit on a chair, gave me a glass of water, and said, "Drink this." After drinking, he continued, "There is no one else here except the four of us. Whatever you saw must have been an illusion." I protested, telling him about the shadow and the feeling of being followed. But he just smiled and said, "Nothing supernatural happens here. You're just imagining things. You should go and rest. I'll take your night duty. Anyway, it's almost my shift now." Despite my protests, he insisted and took me to the room. He gave me a painkiller and some water and said, "Take this and sleep." I obeyed him, but even after a long time, I couldn't fall asleep. My mind kept wondering why my friend didn't believe me. After some time, I started feeling suffocated in the room, so I stepped outside. But my friend was nowhere to be found. I looked around, even went outside the school, but he wasn't there. Then, I checked the second floor, but still, no sign of him. Suddenly, I heard someone reciting something. The sound came from the school roof. My fear returned, but I decided to follow the voice. When I reached the rooftop, I was shocked to see my friend sitting there, chanting something. I called out to him, and he flinched. When he turned around, my heart sank. He didn't look like my friend at all. His appearance was terrifying. Seeing this, I blacked out and collapsed. When I regained consciousness, it was daytime. My head was throbbing. I had no idea what had happened to me. I called out to my friends, and they rushed to me, asking how I felt. I asked, "What happened to me?" My friend replied, "You fainted due to heat exhaustion. We brought you inside and called a doctor. He checked you and prescribed medicine. You just woke up now." I was confused but thanked them for taking care of me. For the next few days, I felt weak. Eventually, I returned home. After recovering, I called my friends to check on them. They all inquired about my health. One of them, the same friend who had been on the roof, said, "I'll visit you this Sunday. I have something important to tell you." I agreed, and when Sunday came, he arrived at my house. After greeting me and exchanging pleasantries, he suddenly fell silent. Moments later, tears welled up in his eyes. I was surprised and asked, "What happened? Why are you crying?" With a heavy heart, he said, "Please forgive me." Confused, I asked, "Why? What have you done?" He hesitated and then confessed, "I have hated you from the very first day. I even tried to harm you multiple times, but you were always lucky and escaped. Those 2 terrifying nights. Everything that happened to you. I caused it. I used black magic to scare and hurt you, but your luck always saved you." I was stunned. "Why did you do this?" she asked. He looked down and said, "Do you remember when I accidentally spilled curry on your clothes? And you slapped me. That day, I swore to take revenge. I was speechless. He continued, on those nights, I was the one chanting spells to harm you. When you saw me on the rooftop, my appearance was not actually distorted. I made myself look that way because the spell required it. When you fainted, I stopped my chanting. But because I left the ritual unfinished, I faced the consequences. That's when I felt remorse and decided to confess. He fell to the ground, crying and begging for forgiveness. Distress, my eyes also filled with tears. I gently lifted him and said, "You call yourself my friend, yet you cry in front of me." He replied, "I will only look at you if you forgive me." Holding his face in my hands, I smiled and said, "I forgive you from my heart. Let's forget the past. What matters is that you regret your actions. Promise me you will never do such things again." He vowed, "I swear I will never do anything like this again." I hugged him and he started crying again. I comforted him, wiped his tears and gave him a glass of water. "Drink this and no more crying. Otherwise, I'll start crying too," I joked. He laughed with teary eyes. We ate together and I treated him with kindness before bidding him farewell. In the end, I realized that the haunted presence in the school was limited to the locked bathrooms. Everything else was caused by my friend's magic. But I forgave him, left that school forever, and felt happy that he had repented. The end.